Hey friends out there in YouTube land, Robert Hamm here with Hamm Camera Company. Today I'm talking to you about PinBox, specifically to make your own PinBox camera. We're going to go over the tools required, we're going to take a look at the software and how I do it. We're going to talk about how you could do it if you didn't have a cutting machine like I'm going to be using, as well as what kind of paper you're going to want to buy. So if you're ready, let's jump into it. So building PinBox is easy and fun, and we've got some ways to put some wraps on it. But it all starts with this standard PinBox right here, as you can see. This little unit is just made out of standard craft paper on 12 by 12 paper. And I'm going to show that to you in a second, but I wanted to let you know I'm actually using two different colors. I use the black for the inside of the box, and I use the craft paper for the outside of the box. There is no difference when you're purchasing this craft paper as long as you get the photo opaque craft paper. If you can hold your cell phone up to it, turn the flashlight on your cell phone, and the paper does not show through the color of the flash on the other side, you're good to go. Okay, let's get into the materials required. First, you're going to need paper. PinBox templates are laid out to be printed on 12 by 12 sheets. But 12 by 12 is a simple size to find that's in most photographing or scrapbooking places, even big box stores like Walmart's and Target's. You can find 12 by 12 paper. Heavy Kraft-board is what you're looking for, and that's craft with a K. Moving on. Next up is the fun stuff. This is the paper that I use to make wraps. What you want for that is, once again, a 12 by 12 paper, because you're going to cut the paper out using your cutting machine or your own knife and straight edge. And this paper just needs to be a heavy cardstock. Kraft-board and cardstock are two different things. You want to use a paper that's about 65 pounds in the cardstock category. Otherwise, it will tear when you try to fold it around the paper. But the nice part about this is it's got all different colors and shapes and designs. You can find all kinds of stuff. These are easily found in the same places as you will find any other scrapbooking material. Are you excited? This is the cutting mat. I use the standard or the light grip cutting mat. This is going to be the mat that your paper actually gets stuck to when it goes through the printer, which we'll look at in a minute. And the reason that this is important is because this will help keep your paper stuck nicely to it while the machine is cutting. And the machine is going to cut some very accurate cuts here, which is going to make your project go a lot better and the end result be pretty awesome. So you want to make sure that you're using a really nice cutting board. Next up is spray adhesive. The reason spray adhesive is important is because if you want to use a wrap, you're going to need to spray the back of the wrap and the front of the PinBox before assembly, and then put those two pieces together. I'll show you how that's done here in a few minutes. I use this Loctite stuff. It works great. A question was asked a couple of weeks ago on the Kickstarter page was, how do I keep the paper that I'm using from ripping when I'm folding it around cardboard? Most of the time, if you put a piece of paper over a piece of cardboard and then fold it, you'll get a rip along the fold line. And the answer is very simple. This stuff is kind of wet, and it stays kind of wet even though it bonds pretty instantly. And what that does is it moisturizes both the PinBox cardboard as well as the paper, allowing it to almost slide when you go into the fold. It may not make a lot of sense, but if you're using at least 65 pound cardstock, then this will work very well. Another thing you could use is rubber cement. Continuing on the DIY theme, we've got X-Acto knives. Now, I don't necessarily care which X-Acto knife set you use, but you'll find this very important. And I'm not going to show it, but you'll also need a straight edge specific to the X-Acto knives if you wish to cut this out yourself. If you're going to use a craft machine or a cutting machine, that's what I would totally suggest. All right, now I'm back talking about glues and the things I use. I actually suggest using 4 different kinds of gluing materials. And one is an instant set, like a super glue. And that one will set like in less than a second, just instant bond. And you'll need that for some very tricky parts that you want to glue quickly. The next one is a long set super glue, up to 30 seconds to a minute, depending on how much you apply and what areas you're applying it to. That's going to be very helpful in areas that you don't want to set so quickly and you need just a bit of maneuverability before that final shape takes place, but you still need something to take place quickly. Another one is going to be Elmer's glue. Now, this is important because it's going to allow you to set your pieces together and have a long working time, and you'll need this specifically for the top and bottom covers, these parts right here, because of the way we put put them together, we need to actually press fit them in, and the only way to do that is to glue them up, shape them up, and then press fit them together while the glue is still wet so that it can dry. If you're using a super glue on that, it won't work. And then finally, we're going to use a double-sided tape. I use the double-sided tape for the camera obscura housing when we actually make that camera. It's a 3-sided piece, and it needs to be positioned very precisely. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's got to be as good as you can get. And by using the double-sided tape, we'll get the adherence that we want, as well as the ability to move it around. And if we need to pull it up and adjust it, we still have that as long as we do it very carefully. Super glue or the other glue just wouldn't work here. So those are the adhesion materials that I'm using. All right, the last things that you're going to need to put PinBox together are going to be the winding keys. And you're going to have to put these together as well. They're going to come as 4 flats with some heads that need to be glued on. That's just in case you prefer not to have the winding heads. You want them flat. Just makes it fit in easier places. You're also going to need to provide a winding spool and a roll of film. So you need both of those things for this to work. And remember, PinBox is held together a lot with a lot of its strength from the actual film spools. So make sure that when you're putting these together that you've got a good fit. Now, I made sure that the winding keys were a little bit skinnier than what you would likely need. They will fit into a Fujifilm Acros roll just fine, but if you find that yours are a little loose, that's normal because there are many different kinds of film spools and you don't want them to be so thick that you can't put them in. All you need to do is use some paper tape or a little bit of tape, just a little teeny piece of tape on the top, and next thing you know, it fits in just fine. All right, friends, here we go. Let's actually jump into the software for a second. There are 2 files you're going to be using in order to create and modify your own PinBox. These are the files that I provide for you, and they're the base files. So let's actually look at them. One is the one you see right now, and you notice it says PinBox Main Body, Reinforcement, and Obscura Housing. This is a PSD file, which is Photoshop document file, which means it's going to work in Adobe Photoshop great. Now the other file you're going to have is the PinBox top plate and bottom plate, which could just be called lids. I just call them top and bottom plates. Shutter and aperture assembly. So there are actually 4 things on this second document. Now, if you don't have Adobe Photoshop, that's totally fine. You can open this up in something like paint.net. You do not have to use the Photoshop file. Those 2 places that we just said will actually read and create this. All right, focusing on the PinBox Main Body, Reinforcement, and Obscura Housing, let's look at this. We've got a page background down here at the bottom, and that just turns off the white page. Like, it could be whatever color you want it to be. It's locked, but for no particular reason. This little eyeball that I'm clicking on and clicking off of just lets you see things and hide things. We're going to move up the ladder to page guidelines. Now, I want you to focus down here at this little red box. There's actually 4 of them. 2 of them are up in these top corners, and they are covered up by objects that are placed over top of them, or layers, I should say. That's okay. These boxes are very important, so no matter what, these are registration marks that when you resize the document later, will make sure that everything fits properly. So always print with these on. Never turn your page guides off. The next thing you're going to see is actually the gray body, and this is the main body. I want to turn that off for a second and show you that when you do, these gold lines are left. Those are actually the score lines, and in the layer dialog over here, you can see that they're gold as well. In fact, there's score lines over each of the different pieces. Continuing on up to the orange, we actually have the obscura housing. This is the housing, which is the comb part, and then the reinforcement. Okay, so now that we know that, let's turn off the score lines, let's turn off the main body reinforcement and everything. These are your registration marks, and they are on all pages of PinBox. Same one from the main body, the other one same as the top and the bottom plate. When we turn on our score lines, this is a particular document we would use. Score lines on, all of the other pieces or layers off. This is going to allow us to create a printable score line template to be used with Cricut Design Software. You'll see how that works later. It's real simple. Let's turn these back on and turn the score lines off. This is what it would look like when you would print this or save this so that you could print the cut object in the Cricut Design Software. So we've got 2 processes that are happening. In this instance, we would leave these all on and then save this as a JPEG. And later we would upload that JPEG as this document, just the PinBox main body reinforced. You could even title it as PinBox cut image. You would upload that. You would also upload the PinBox scoreline image. You would save this as a JPEG and then save it as PinBox scoreline image, and then you would upload that to the Cricut Design Software later, and you would then overlap the two using the registration marks. I'll show that to you in just a minute. Okay, before we continue any further, let's actually just look into the Obscura housing, or actually the main body. By clicking on this little arrow beside the folder, we can open this up quite a bit, and now you will see each individual piece that you can customize. So we are currently on the film or the main body, and you can see one says pinhole hole. Well, the pinhole hole is this square right here, and we can turn that square on and off if we like. Interestingly enough, the pinhole hole matches up with the reinforcement pinhole hole, and we should see that right here. There it is. Those two line up. In fact, the pinhole hole on the outside of the box is slightly larger than the inside of the box. And if you recall from the build video, you sandwich your actual pinhole, your physical pinhole, in between the reinforcement and the main body. Anyway, so this is where you would go to make adjustments, and you could click on these, you could add these, you could delete them, you can make them larger or smaller to your heart's content. This is how you design PinBox. So let's move over to the print software. Okay, now that we've moved into our Cricut design space, we can go ahead and begin building our project. So we just go to New Project, and then we're going to go to Upload. Now I've got several uploads already right here, and you can see what they're going to look like, but I'll show you from the beginning to the end. We're going to upload an image. I'm going to click Browse. It's going to open up. You may not be able to see this right now, so just give me 1 second. Okay, now I've uploaded an image. Look at this part over here. It actually shows us our image. You'll notice that this is a different design than what I showed you a minute ago. This is one that I've been tinkering with in order to expand the focal length of PinBox. How cool is that? You can do the same. Now we've got some choices. This is a simple image. We're just going to click on simple because it's just basic colors and shapes. And that's why I labeled everything these basic colors and shapes. By moving over to the simple and clicking continue, it's going to allow us to look at our entire design and then begin removing things that we don't want to print and we don't want to cut. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of the border. I'm going to get rid of all of these little different areas, and you can see that checkered design in the background. None of that will actually be cut. And there we go. We can see that we've still got our score lines right here. That's why we have 4 of those little boxes, because it's going to allow it to open it up in the right size and shape. Now that that's all done, if you need to erase because you grabbed something you didn't mean to, you can. If you want to crop something, you can. Don't do any of that here, however. We click on continue. Now it's going to ask us. We're going to save this as a print and cut file or save this as just a cut image. Here's the thing. If you want to use a large format printer to print your own design on PinBox, you would save this as a print and cut image, because you would apply in Photoshop your image texture over this before you saved it out. We don't need to do that right now. We're just going to save this as a save and cut image, and I'm going to save this right here as a just test. Once it's saved, it shows up right here. Now that it shows up here, we've got the regular image, but we don't have the score lines. We're going to go ahead and do the same process for the score lines, and I've actually already done that for you. So we're going to meet you back right here. Okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and bring in this particular image and this particular image and show you how the two set over top. Okay. Now that I'm in here, there's a couple things I want you to look at. Cricut software is stupid. It doesn't know what's going on. The reason that we've kept these boxes is so that we can align everything. So we grab one box and we come over here and we align it to the other box. Now there's another way that you can do this. You can actually click select all. You can ran it all over to the left and it will automatically align it for you directly on top. Notice the part where it says score lines. I'm currently looking to the very right of your screen where it says PinBox score lines. You're going to see a little scissors in a circle and then black. We want to actually click on those scissors and we want to change it to score. Now once we change that to score, we can click back on the main screen, and what you'll see is a little dotted line area that shows up right here for all the score lines. It's actually going to score on those lines. So now you can see where the score lines will be. But if you look up at the top, you'll notice that it's way too big. The size is 23.95 inches. So we're going to once again click Select All, and now we're going to resize. We're going to come over here and type in 11.5. The reason that that's important is because PinBox was made with these exterior edges of all the guidelines to be 11.5 inches. By doing so, we get a perfect match for our score lines onto our cut lines. You'll notice that we are as close as Cricut will give us, which is 11.493. That's basically 11.5. Everything is fine. We're going to go back to Select All, and then from there, we're going to look back on our layers, and at the very bottom, you're going to see 5 icons. One is Slice, one is Weld, one is Attach. We have to press Attach. Let's go to Make It. Over here on Make It, you're going to notice that it's telling you you've got a score and a cut operation to take place on one mat. Look at that. Everything's loaded on top of each other. But let's pretend I didn't do that the first time. I'm going to select All, and I'm going to tell it to detach. If we then go to Make It, watch what it does. It's going to give us 2 completely separate mats, one to score, one to cut, and we don't want that. From this point, we select our mat size, which Cricut already knows. It's 12 by 12, and we click Continue. Now that we've clicked Continue, we're ready to begin printing. You would select which machine you want to use. In this case, my maker is connected on my USB, and then we would select the type of material that we want to use. I've got several favorites already set up, specifically Kraft-board. That's what we're going to be using. But let's go back to this material. I want you to know that you can use your Cricut Maker or any other cutting machine in a very similar way. Check it out. There's lots of materials already in here. So if you want to make your pin box out of heavy cardboard or chipboard or poster board or foil or something like that, if you've got something special that you want to put on it, you can absolutely use it. So make sure to check out all the different types of materials that you can use. Of course, I'm going to click Kraft-board. In this instance, I'm going to use default or heavy pressure. You can use a little bit more or default. Why not use more right now? Now, for step 2, load tools on the mat. In this case, I've got to tell it which ones I want to use. I want to use my scoring stylus because that's the one that I have, and my 5-point blade, which is the one right there. Now that that's done, it's telling me to do a couple of things. I've already checked my stylus, I've already put my 5-point blade in, and now it says it's time to press Continue. Once I press that Continue button to load the mat, it'll be time to press Go and print. Let's look at that. Alright, there you have it. That's how you build PinBox with the software and tools it was designed to be used for. You can pick up a cutting machine for $100 or less in some cases. Any way that you can get your hands on one, it's going to give you some of the best cuts. But even if you can't get your hands on one and you still want to make PinBox, that's not a problem. Just go to your local Office Depot and have them print the exact same templates onto brown Kraft-board. I hope that you found this interesting. Oh, yeah, one final note. If you wish to use paper, like we talked about, you follow the exact same process for all parts. So if you want to make your own wraps, you can do so just by using your cool, whatever, theme paper that you want to do. It all works the same. Just make sure to set the material that you're cutting to the proper material that you're using, or else you're going to run into some tears. That's what's going to happen. Guys, I'm Robert Hamm. This has been an expose on how to use this software and make PinBox from Hamm Camera Company. I hope that you like it. Backer kit is going to be the way we will do any additional purchases, so there will be additional PinBox kits as well as wraps and apertures that are available in the backer kit after the Kickstarter has completed. I hope you're excited. Please let me know in the comments below. I want to thank you for watching and remind you that I will catch you on the flip side.